So, you want to become a pilot? Here's a guide, my young hatchling. First of all, you need to figure out what kind of pilot you want to become. There are multiple pilot licenses you need to take into consideration. Here's some of them. There's the SPL Sailplane License, PPL, A, Private Pilot License, CPL Commercial Pilot License, ATPL Airline Transportation Pilot License, LAPL Light Aircraft Pilot License, PPL, H, Private Helicopter Pilot License, UAP Ultralight Aircraft Pilot License, UAPL, H, Ultralight Helicopter Pilot License, UGL Gyroplane Pilot License, VPL Balloon Pilot License, Fighter Pilot License, and FI Flight Instructor Licenses, and a bunch of other ratings that I will explain later. But these are really the big ones, except the gyroplane one. I've only seen one person fly a gyroplane in my life. They are 100% government drones, do not trust them. Also, I will only be talking about fixed-wing aircraft licenses. Anyway, we'll go over how to acquire each and every one of them and the usual journey people go through in order to become airline pilots or fighter pilots, so let's begin. Becoming a glider pilot. Becoming a glider pilot is fairly cheap and easy as compared to other licenses, and because of its low barrier to entry it's considered the first step to become an airline pilot or a fighter pilot. But remember this before beginning any course on any license: get that medical certificate. You first need to check if you can even become a pilot and do a medical exam. They're split into classes. Class 1 is for airline pilots, and it kinda gives you like 99% of the clearances to do stuff like flips in the air and whatnot. Class 2 is for private pilots and student pilots, and Class 3, depending on your country's regulation, is also for student pilots, but they cannot perform commercial flights. I will go into further detail in a different video. Anyway, step 1 of becoming a glider pilot is finding a flight academy, or if you're in Europe, an aero club. When finding one, it's recommended to visit one. See what kind of instructors they have, talk to them, and see if they offer intro flights, which yes, you should take. See what the infrastructure quality is like, what gliders they have and if they're well kept, and what the people are like, if they're secretly government drones, and general opinions on the course, and get more information about the course. Said courses are usually done from May to September and, in rare cases, up to November, and in some countries, done during the winter, such as the Czech Republic. And the course costs anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000/euros. Step 2. Theoretical course. You need to complete a theoretical course for the SPL, and later your state exams/FAA exams. Said course will usually last anywhere from a month to 3 months and can be done online or in person at a flight academy of your choice. Note, many aero clubs in Europe are slowly opting out of in-person courses and are switching to online courses only. Said course only costs 300 to 1,000 euros and contains subjects such as general aircraft knowledge, law and air traffic procedures, meteorology, etc. It is recommended to get opinions from other people before starting a theoretical course of your choice. You can acquire them often from people that have took part in said course before at your flight academy of choice. Step 3. Flights. After finally completing your theoretical course, and maybe even the theoretical exam, though it is very recommended to do the theoretical FAA/state exam after doing your practical course, you start your practical training where you'll learn the art of flying a glider and hopefully coming back to the runway in one piece with a functioning glider. You'll learn how to do a winch takeoff, fly in a traffic pattern, emergency procedures, flying in a thermal and many more things. I must state that gliding is a dangerous sport where you need to pay attention to safety, as you must remember, to land a glider you only have one attempt. Don't fuck it up, listen to safety briefings always. Emergency situations, or specific, as some other institutes call them, are situations like winch cable failure at 100 meters, where you must perform required actions in order to land successfully back at the runway and not die. Remember, you only have one attempt. This also goes for other licenses, they too pose danger, and once you make a mistake, it can be yours last. I should also mention completing the SPL course usually can take anywhere from 1 to 2 years. Step 4. To acquire your sailplane license, you need to meet your country's criteria to even attempt a flight exam. Said criteria, FAA criteria and EASA criteria used as an example, are here. Step 5. This step is an extra, but after acquiring your glider license, you can start a FIS, or glider flight instructor course in order to become an instructor and save up for a different course like a PPL course or just work as a flight instructor. You do need a CPL before officially becoming a FIS. Extra ratings also include the VFR night rating for flying at night. Yes, you can actually acquire said rating, though it's quite useless as gliders usually don't fly at night, and you can also acquire a commercial rating, though first you'll need to have a CPL, or depending on your country's regulations, all you need is just a CPL. You can also have an IFR rating for getting lost in the clouds. Next chapter, becoming a private pilot. It's quite similar to acquiring SPL license. Step 1: Find a flight academy. Ask them questions about the course. Like what it's like to fly at said airport, if the instructors are good and stuff like that. Often the same flight schools that have a SPL course also have a PPL course. Step 2: The theoretical course. Said course is significantly longer, harder, and a lot more expensive. It can cost up to $1,000 to $2,500 per euros. You can, of course, do said course in a physical classroom or do an online course. There are more subjects than the SPL course, but if you had done the SPL course prior to that, you will find it significantly easier to understand the information conveyed to you. Step 3: Flight practice. Similar to your SPL course, it will most likely happen during the summer, but in contrast, it won't require a full team of people to actually get the glider to the runway and fly it. Instead, you'll meet up with your instructor. Prepare the airplane for flight. Taxi to the runway and then fly. It is still important to pay attention to the safety of everyone aboard the aircraft. The price of the course can range anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 per euros, as the price often depends on the quality of said course and the type of aircraft you'll train on. Step 4: Completing exams. Pretty self-explanatory. You need to meet these requirements in order to attempt a flight exam, practical and theoretical, and then you can finally get your license. Step 5: Extras. You can acquire multiple ratings for your PPL, such as a VFR night rating for flying at night, an IFR rating, instructor's rating, multiple engine rating, and a commercial rating, or CPL, which allows you to perform commercial flights. LAPL license is basically just a PPL, license that's a license specific to the European Union that allows you to fly only in the EU. A UAP license is also almost the same as a PPL license, except you can only fly aircraft that aren't heavier than 495 kilograms, only aircraft mass. Pilot mass not included. And now finally, the thing everyone has been patiently waiting for is the airline transport pilot license, which can be approached from various angles, but let's not stretch it out. Here's the first way of becoming an airline pilot, and it's basically a license by license way where you progress from the SPL license, then the PPL, CPL, and finally the ATPL, with the PPL having a multi-engine, an IR, and a VFR night rating plus a ton of hours. It is recommended to get an instructor's rating for a PPL and an SPL since they will be valuable in getting you money for your ATPL course and a Class 1 medical exam. But say, how much does an ATPL course cost? A fuck ton, anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 per euros depending on flight school, if an airline owns it, and what kind. Once you have saved up enough money for an ATPL course or got accepted by an airline that will fund you the ATPL in exchange for working for them for a set period of time, you begin your ATPL course with theoretical classes, which most often are in person. They can be done online, and usually last 3 to 6 months. Later are the practical flight lessons, which last usually again 3 to 6 months and are performed on a multi-engine aircraft. And you'll also go through a lot more safety trainings, such as escaping from the airplane that is sinking training or it being on fire, and simulator flights. The other way is a lot more simple, and that's the 0 to ATPL course, which is just what I've talked about but all in one course and a lot more expensive, ranging from $100,000 to $500,000 per euros, and it can even take up to 2 years in some cases. The next way is the educational way, which involves being in schools/universities that have aviation-specific profiles. From what I've heard, they're the most common in Eastern Europe. Said schools will often provide funding for medical exams and flight practice, but you will have to learn a lot and remain competitive with other people. And now finally, how to become a fighter pilot, the thing everybody except for Greg have been waiting for. So how do you actually become a fighter pilot? Well, it really depends on your nation way of making fighter pilots. But first, like with every license, you need to see if you meet medical requirements to become a fighter pilot, which vary depending on how desperate your nation is for new fighter pilots. but usually good vision, very good physical condition, no health problems like no hearing or heart problems, and the whole shebang is required. After seeing if you meet the medical requirements, you go through officer schools centered around being a pilot, later flight schools, and finally specialization schools centered around the type of aircraft you're flying, like if it's a transport aircraft. But of course it varies on how your nation makes fighter pilots, and sometimes all you have to do is 1. Enlist. 2. Complete a flight school. 3. Profit. Becoming a fighter pilot is arguably the cheapest way to actually becoming a pilot, depending if your nation education system provides free university education, as all you have to do is enlist, have good health and be smart. So yeah, that's it. That's how you become a pilot. Pretty complicated and very time and cost consuming, but if you're like me, you'll view the time and money spent to become a pilot as worth it. So yeah, that's it. Goodbye, see you in the next